welcome. This is the orientation for the middle years program. I want to get an idea of who I'm talking to before we start. So if you have a sixth grader, can you wave at me? Oh, they're just so precious. We're my seventh and eighth grade parents. Seventh, eighth grade. And we're my ninth and 10th grade parents. Okay. Oh, wow. So young to be a ninth or you actually look maybe like a 10th grader yourself. Oh, there's the beard. I see it. All right. Welcome. So, why are we here today? I want to tell you a little bit about the Foundation for Flourishing that the MYP offers, and a little bit about the program, and then give you a chance to ask some questions if you'd like to. So, this is a picture from our first chapel service this year. It was just beautiful. I so enjoyed it. Some years we start so slowly. I felt like this year was one of the first years where we started chapel, and it just went so smoothly, and they were just worshiping and listening, and I was enjoying myself. I wasn't telling anyone to shh anything. It was lovely. And so this is Pastor Hector. He had an incredible message to preach. The energy was beautiful. Yeah, and I really enjoyed my time. So we're getting rolling this year. I have another picture for you. This is me and 60 of my new best friends. Today we had a lightning strike during recess, and so we had to bring everybody in to this room all at once. And I said, hey, sixth grade, I've got an orientation coming tonight. Does anyone want to take a picture with me for your parents? And like I said, 60 of my new best friends immediately jumped up for a picture. So it was lovely. I want to share a couple other stories for you from this year so far. I have the pleasure of being in some sixth grade classes and some 10th grade classes this year, so I get to see sort of both ends of the spectrum. In sixth grade, I watched children make timelines of their life, and they would ask me, does this belong, does this belong? And I said, I don't know, what feels important to you? And the conversations they were having with each other about what felt important was a ton of fun. We had birth of siblings, we had moves, but we also had like bigger questions like, I started playing baseball that year. It's a sport, but it feels really important. I was like, yeah, I love that. They ask beautiful questions. They also asked really beautiful questions. Oh, wait, I just said that twice. They asked beautiful questions. They also gave really beautiful answers to the questions we were asking them. It was so cool to watch a group start digging deep into individuals and societies so quickly. We also had a lot of fun learning to pronounce Mesopotamia. That has been the highlight of my year so far. In 10th grade today, we were learning about materials, and I watched the 10th graders tear apart gently, using the proper tools, a monitor to look for the supercapacitors. And then we learned a little bit about those materials. In both classes, I get to co-teach with some incredible people. The sixth grade INS teacher is Dr. Fleetwood, who has a PhD in education and is just incredible to watch work. And in 10th grade, I'm co-teaching with Miss Myra Schrock, who has worked in particle physics, theoretical physics, and she's here to teach our 8th graders and 10th graders. It's honestly, it's humbling. It's really beautiful. So that's my hope this year. This year, it's our deep hope that your student finds a place of flourishing at the Rock School. Academically, yes, but I'm also hoping that they grow to become happy, healthy, and holy in any way that we can encourage them. And it's been a joy so far. One of the things we told them, this was one of our first slides this year when they came to us on, let's see, this would have been Wednesday, reminding all of our students, 6th through 10th, that they are seen, they are known, and they are loved. Learning is serious work, and we take that seriously, and that's why it's so important that they know that they are seen and known and loved, so that as they're growing academically, they're also growing in their identity and security. So one of the ways I really enjoy that our students ask for things, and we get to respond to that. So last year we met with some of our 9th and 10th graders and asked them, how are you doing remembering things for your classes? How do you keep track of these things? How does it go? And we learned that a good number of our students were following my bad example and writing things on their hand, which was unfortunate. So we asked them, how would you feel about a planner? More than half said they would love to have a planner. So we made them a planner this summer, and we handed everyone in 6th through 10th grade their planner. We told them, we see you working hard. We know that you're trying to remember all your assignments, and we love you enough to help. So everybody started out with a planner this year. In 6th through 8th grade, we're using those planners. Oh, there's a planner right there. Thanks, Connor. You're my favorite. Don't tell the others. Okay. Just kidding. So everybody has a planner. In 6th through 8th grade, they're using them daily in their class. In 9th and 10th grade, it's optional, but we do encourage them to because what a resource to have. So you'll see a couple things from the planner in this today. So it is certainly not a one-person show. I am the newest on the team, so I want to introduce you to the community that's here for you in the MYP. This is our upper school principal, Erica Littauer. Erica's in the back. Okay. This is myself. I'm Madeline Iyer. I am stepping into the shoes of the wonderful Robin Ortega. If you've never met her, she is one of the sweetest and most effective people I've ever met in my life. So it's a pleasure to be here and get to continue the work she started. We also have, is she in the room right now? Yes, hello. We have Amanda here. We have Justin here, and they are part of our student support team. Student support and student support, both of you. Academic support, really, sorry, the names changed this summer, so I'm catching up. We also have this year a new academic advisor, Lacey Bassford. She'll be advising high school, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. And we have returning to the school Deanna Petrush, and she is working in student support. And we don't have a professional head shop for her yet, but this was her in our Meet the Teacher, already helping students catch up. She is a joy if you haven't had the pleasure. So this is our team, and some of us will be here in the collaboratory afterward if you have specific questions. We also have an incredible teaching staff. I do want to say one of the things I enjoy most about the MYP is the growing independence that happens in those years. You should know all of your students, or all of your children, my students, your children, they all have email addresses, and they are welcome to email their teachers anytime. And we would actually encourage you to encourage them to do so. This is that age where it's really beautiful to watch people grow in independence, and the teachers are ready to help them learn how to write a professional email, what that looks like, et cetera, et cetera. So if you would like to encourage your student or encourage your child to nurture their independence, encourage them to reach out to their teachers in person. In our office hours, in IAP, if they're in high school, that's individual academic pursuit. It comes right before lunch. Or if they're in middle school during study hall, that's during recess right after lunch. So if they need to get us in person, they can come find us. And we'd love to see them grow in that. They can also email us, firstname.lastname@therock.school, and all of this is also on their classes on Toddle if they need to find that information. One change for this year that you should be aware of, we're not opening the messaging for MYP through Toddle. I believe PYP can still use it, but for MYP teachers, it doesn't go to our emails, so occasionally we would miss a parent's message, and we felt so bad. But they don't have notifications for us. They don't go to our email, so we figured it might be safer this year just to turn it off and have you continue reaching out to us over email. Okay. So how do we support you? Got a couple things to share with you tonight. This is the MYP curriculum. It's a little different from the curriculums that you may have grown up with. It's certainly different from the one I grew up with. This circle's got a lot going on there, but I want to point out a couple things to you. The MYP curriculum is inquiry driven, meaning your children will be asking questions, following up those questions, and digging deep through the questions they're asking. They're also building a conceptual understanding. So as an example, when I was in high school, chemistry class was essentially learning to be a lab tech. I don't know if you experienced the same thing. Lots of labs, but I didn't always know what I was doing. I was definitely memorizing lots of things, but I wasn't completely clear what they were for. So a conceptually driven curriculum, the difference is we start with the question. We start with the problem to solve, and we dig deep into that problem. And along the way, we will learn all of the chemistry it takes to solve that problem, but it keeps it from being separate from the context in which the material is used. So our students will absolutely learn lab skills, but they're not going to leave lab techs who are just sort of following directions. They'll leave with people, or they'll leave as people that have a conceptual understanding of all the things they've done and where it connects to the real world. So I'm very excited about that. It is purposefully collaborative. My ladies in the front row, how many times this week in class did we ask you to turn and talk to your neighbor as you figured out a question? Oh, too many times? Oh, incorrect. Oh, too many to count. Thank you. I appreciate it. Would you say 6, 7, somewhere in there? So would you say you had, let's see, you've got 7 classes. In how many classes were you asked to talk to your neighbor as you figured out a problem? What would you say? Probably about 6 or 7. I see where this is going. All 7 of them? Okay. And this actually, part of this is just, it's important to build social skills in school as much as it's important to learn things, but some of it's also very research driven. We see in research that the more students are discussing things with one another, the more the learning gets turned into student-friendly language. It sticks better in their brain when they've had these conversations. So they did some incredible work this week. Connor, how many times just today were you asked to turn and talk to your neighbor? A lot. Certainly in my class, you hit it at least 10 times today. God bless you. And then also, all of our curriculum is aligned to 4 criteria in each course. And so you can see the courses around the outside here. And then we've got our approaches to learning farther in. Our approaches to learning, these are kind of the soft skills. Have you heard that term before? That one? I feel like that term is becoming more common. These are sort of like, yes, I learned chemistry, but I also learned to present the things I talked about. Yes, I learned to write a paper, but I also learned the research skills to find the information. I learned the thinking skills to make it sound logical. I learned self-management skills to finish the project. So I'm really encouraged that these are built into the MYP, that it's not only the content, but it's also the soft skills that you would need in order to use that content. So that's a little bit about the curriculum. But I want to jump a little bit into assessment because this is one of the most common questions we have. Okay. So I mentioned those 4 curricula, or 4 criterion, A, B, C, and D. I pulled the science ones because these are the ones I'm most familiar with. But this is definitely a place where the MYP is a little different. The purpose of all assessment here is to show mastery of the content and skills learned. So in science, for example, criterion A is knowing and understanding. And if I had gone back to my chemistry class, you know, roughly the time of the dinosaurs, yeah. All of my chemistry work would have been in here, knowing and understanding. Just learning and learning and learning and learning and reading and writing and learning. And we would have done some labs, that's B, inquiring, asking those questions, tracking down the answers. One unique feature here is that they're also designing their own labs. And then in C, they're processing their own data and evaluating their own data. How reliable is it? Things like that. So I got a little bit of that in high school, but not a ton. Here, that's roughly 50% of the science curriculum. And it's very similar in all the other subjects. They've got these areas where they're digging a lot deeper, and I appreciate that. And then criterion D in science is reflecting on the impacts of science. So we've learned it, we've done some research, we've got our results. What do we do with it? What will the impact be if we choose this or this or this? So as you go throughout the year and your student is getting grades in criterion A or B or C or D, that's what they're getting grades in. They're getting grades in these different aspects of the learning. Do I have any questions here before I move on? I'm talking a lot. Wow, have I done such a good job that you have no questions, or such a rotten job that you don't even know where to start? Oh, thank you. Thank you. All right, so you're going to see 2 different types of assessment in total this year. You're going to see formative assessments. These are the ones that take place during the learning. So it might be a quiz, it might be a project, it might be a writing, but either way, these are the things that are forming their understanding. Then you'll also see summatives. These are the ones that happen after the learning. So at the end of the unit or maybe midway, covering what has been taught so far. One of my favorite, what is this? Is this a metaphor? Where's my English people? Is this a metaphor or a simile? It's an analogy. I'm remembering that now. Yes, I'm feeling a little silly. All right, here we go. When the chef tastes the soup back in the kitchen, that's formative. He's still doing the work. He's still figuring it out. When the guest tastes the soup, that's summative. That's done. So keep that in mind as you're looking at the grades this year. The formative ones, these are the ones that show how your student is doing along the way as we're learning. In many cases, they can contact their teacher and improve that score or just get more deep feedback so they know what to do in the future. But these grades, yeah, they show you what's happening along the way. The summative scores will be a little bit heavier. These are the ones that take place at the end. They don't get a chance to improve these, but they do get an enormous amount of practice before they get there. Before there's even a formative, we see practice. The formative itself is practice and feedback and oftentimes improvement. And all that happens before we get to that summative. So this is the mastery-based scale. This is the thing I get the most questions about. I love it. I was using a mastery-based scale even before I got to IB. I really feel like it's one of the healthiest things we can offer our kids. So if you'll indulge me for a second, I want to give you the why behind the scale before I tell you how it works. Is that all right? Yeah, okay. So let's imagine that I give these 3 lovely humans in the front row an assignment. I want you to build me an Acropolis. You'll be fine, don't worry about it. You're great, you're ready for this. So I asked them to build me an Acropolis. If I'm using a traditional 1 through 100 scale, what grade would a perfect Acropolis get? 100, right. And then for every error, we would knock off some points, right? Here's the issue with that system. It treats the work that they did as broken. and the score is actually telling them how broken it was. It started at 100, but here's all the little places it was broken. On the other hand, when we use a mastery scale, it recognizes that the learning is in progress and that the work might not be a finished work, but that here are all the things they've done right. You know, that 1 through 100 scale says you're missing a chunk of roof, I see some cracks in the pillars, it's a broken acropolis. The mastery scale says, okay, I see you building pillars, this is great. That foundation looks solid, still working on that roof, yeah? That's what the mastery scale communicates to our students. And I love this, not only for their academics, but also for them building their identity in Christ, because the Lord does not call us broken. He says that if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. He says that he who began a good work in us will bring it to completion. And he says that we are his field and his building, that the work in us is ongoing. It's one of the reasons I love the mastery scale. Once I switched to the mastery scale with my students, the conversation stopped being, why didn't I get an A? Why wasn't I perfect? And the conversation started being, how can I become sophisticated? What more do I need? The shift was, it's giving me chills even to talk about it. The shift was huge. If you haven't spent your whole life telling kids why they're not perfect, I don't know if you can imagine how heavy that is, to spend your days telling kids why they're not perfect. On the other hand, to tell them what more they need to do to continue growing is one of the most life-giving conversations, and I get to have it every day. So I know the mastery scale is new. Give it a little bit of time. I think you'll see also that perfectionist mindset gives way to something much healthier, something that recognizes imperfection and knows that they're growing along the way. So with that in mind, here is our scale. You're going to see grades 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 on things this year. Last year in PYP, I believe you had 1, 2, 3, and 4. Is that correct? For my people coming from PYP? Excellent. So it's very similar. All we've done is broken it into 2 levels. Okay? And that reflects sort of the more variation we have in quality of work in the MYP. So, as before, that first level is sort of a limited mastery. We definitely see you've begun, but there's work to be done. Foundational says you've built a strong foundation. There is work left to be done, but a solid amount has been learned. Comprehensive says, great job. You have everything you need to move on. Okay? And sophisticated says, okay, look at you. That's beautiful. The other reason I love this scale, and right now I'm talking to you guys, the other reason I love this scale is that this is what real life feels like. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm a comprehensive cook. I am not a sophisticated cook, and I'll be honest, that's okay with me. I've got a lot going on in my life. I'm also going to be honest with you. My financial understandings, I don't even know the next word, foundational. The good news is I pay somebody to do the rest of that, and they are sophisticated. This is real life. You know, in real life, people aren't looking at you and telling you all the ways in which you're imperfect. You look at yourself and you say, I'm okay with my cooking. Or maybe you say, I'd really love to be sophisticated. But we've got that opportunity to grow throughout our lives, and I love that their grading scale matches that. Okay? So I would say in the nitty-gritty for you as a parent, I love to see 5s and 6s. 5s and 6s are so healthy. I'm happy. I love to see a sophisticated. It shows me that a student had a lot of passion in an area and they were really pouring in that area. But I don't need to see a sophisticated. I have lots of students that ended with final grades last year that they had so many reasons to be proud of and that their parents were proud of too, that lived here. Okay? We love the sophisticated, but it does show an extra piece. Foundational is okay. This is what I see in a lot of formatives. Limited too. Early on, when we're just forming that understanding, I expect a lot of my students to be in here. And as they keep working, their understanding becomes comprehensive and may even progress to sophisticated. And these are conversations they can have with their teachers. They can go to their teacher and say, hey, I see that my understanding is foundational. What do I need to do to get it to that point where it's comprehensive? Or maybe they're starting out right here and they want to ask, what does sophisticated look like in this thing? Okay? Questions about the grading scale? Yeah, that's a good question. So the question was, how is that grading scale reported? It will be reported through Toddle, and you'll see on Toddle a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, a 6, a 7, or an 8. And you'll also see sometimes feedback on Toddle. You may also see feedback on an assessment. Oh my gosh, is it Rosalind? It's so good to see you. I'm sorry that I did that. I apologize. I know what I did. I apologize. All right, here's one other thing I'd like you to be aware of. Oh, she's bright red. Oh, and then I said it out loud. I'm so sorry, Rosalind. Okay, here we go. So these formative grades, one of the hardest things I hear from my students is formatives don't matter. You know, that's not the final thing. Please, if you hear your baby say this, educate them. This is like a basketball player saying practice doesn't matter, I only care about the game. What a toxic mindset. Formative is where we live. It would be like my husband saying all the dates don't matter, it's just whether or not she says yes when I pull out the ring. That's bonkers. That's nuts. So when you hear your baby say this, help them shift a little bit. Because that formative grade, it takes place during the learning. It might be a quiz or a project or an essay, but it's just where they're at right now. And it matters a lot because it tells them where they need to go next. You're also going to see daily feedback or weekly feedback. We'll see it be a learning experience on Toddle, and it shows what they're doing in class that day. That is also an excellent place where they're reading, practicing, maybe doing some IXL. But either way, they're forming that understanding there in class, whether or not there's a formative grade attached to it. So those learning experiences or those daily updates will tell you a lot about what's going on there. Homework here is intentional. We're not assigning homework just to assign homework. I take no pride in assigning homework. In 6th through 8th grade, we do expect that as a maximum, students will end with maybe 30 to 45 minutes of homework a night. And that's from all their classes, not from one. That would be heartbreaking, would you say? Yeah. In 9th through 10th grade, you should expect as a maximum about 60 to 90 minutes per night. As an example, I assigned on Tuesday about 40 minutes of homework that wasn't due until Friday. Okay, so that's 20 minutes from my class over the course of 2 days. So that's 10 minutes from my class. They had 3 that day. That's 30 minutes. That's actually a little bit below where they should be at. If you didn't follow that math, I apologize. I'm not sure I was either. They have a lot of support in these assessments. In grades 6 through 8, they can go to middle school study hall, and that's during recess right after lunch. Their teachers will be there to help them with something. They can also ask their teachers, can you meet me in study hall? And that's available Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. In grades 9 through 10, they have individual academic pursuits, which is also a study hall, but with a very fancy name. And that's also Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, and they will be there every day, and their teachers are also there, so they have an opportunity to get help there. There's even more help, though. It's not just during the school day. Wednesday after school, there's a study hall from 1 to 2, and Miss Moore, or one of the support staff, will always be there to help them. We also have a math-specific study hall this year on Tuesdays and a Spanish-specific study hall on Thursdays. So if they need help in math or Spanish, there will be a teacher there, there'll be some support staff there, and they can help them work through the nittier, grittier parts of math and Spanish. From here on out, this is just tips and tricks for MYP. So if I move a little fast, it's okay. We can make sure you get this information. But if your child is absent, you may absolutely email the ROC. But remember, we're trying to foster that independence. So the goal would be that the student would follow up with Toddle or the teachers for makeup work. And this is what we showed your students in their planners this year. The first step, rest and recover. Please don't come back while you're sick. Don't bring those germs to me. I don't need them, thank you. Then take a look at Toddle. Then practice some of those soft skills, those ATL skills we talked about. Make a list, ask a person for help, etc., etc. And then finally, if they're having trouble still, please do contact the teacher. We're here to help you. Progress reports, they are coming out on Wednesdays this year, and one of the hopes in this is that if there are questions about the progress report, interpreting that report, that you would be able to see us Friday mornings for some help interpreting that. And so they're coming out September 24th, November, February, and April. And the following Fridays, a couple of us will be in the collaboratory to help you read and understand what's going on in that report. Academic honesty. This one is just heavy on my heart because it's not only about schoolwork, it's also about their integrity and their identity. Everyone shares the responsibility here. Students need to ask questions and ask for help. And parents, please reflect with your students and champion that integrity. And this is all work. Graded, ungraded, what we practice is what we preach. So I'd rather them practice doing it the right way, even if it's not graded. You can see the academic honesty policy on the website, but the big question this year has been, what about AI? We could have like a whole orientation about AI. But here's the line we're landing on. Teachers will explicitly tell their students what, if anything, is permissible in regards to AI. And I am training teachers some really healthy ways they can use AI with students, but also where the line is drawn on what is healthy. However, if they use it, students must cite it as a source, and anything outside of these permissions is unacceptable. So if the teacher has not explicitly told your child, yes, you may use this AI for this thing on this assignment, the answer has already been given. It's no. So please help them on that one. And this is because if we don't know they're struggling, we can't help. I would much rather your babies turn in a paper halfway done. I can work with a halfway done paper, but if they turn in ChatGPT's finest, I don't know that they're struggling. So help me help them on that one. And this is a slide we showed them at the beginning of the year. When you feel stuck, who can you ask for help? This is, a lot of times cheating doesn't happen because a student is looking for necessarily like an easier way out. A lot of times they feel stuck, unable to move forward, and that's when the cheating happens. So our goal is to make all of this possible, but if they're struggling, we want them to come to us. Right? I would so much rather have a student say, I don't know where to begin, than have a student turn me in something that looks great, but may not be their original work. So that's the message we're communicating with your children. Finally, how do we support you? I have about 1 minute left here, and I taunted Brandon Bolin about going over time, so I'm going to need to move pretty quick from here on out to save face. Is that okay with everybody? Thank you. I really appreciate it. We have Bark for schools this year. You have an email in your weekly updates that tells you a little bit about this, but it's one of the ways we keep your children safe on the iPads. And actually, we've missed a slide here, but 6th through 8th grade has iPads in the classroom, but they don't take them home. 9th and 10th grade has iPads assigned to them, and those come with an enormous amount of safety precautions involved, but also Bark. So you can take a look at your email to see more about that. Couple reminders. Students should not be on their phones between 8 a.m. and 3:05 p.m. for high school or when they leave for middle school. This is us building really healthy screen time habits with your children. The truth is, FOMO is real, and they are going to miss out on something. We want them to choose to miss out on what's on their screen rather than missing out on what's in front of them. So that's what's going on here. Your child may absolutely contact you during the day. To do so, though, they should not use their cell phone. They need to head down to the front office, and they can call you from there. If you want to contact your child, please don't text them. If you call the front office, they'll take a message, and we'll deliver it to your child. We'll make sure they get the message, but we definitely don't want them to feel like they have to break the rules to be a good child, or be a good son or daughter. That puts them in a really awkward position. So they will not be able to pay by phone in the collaboratory after August 15th, and that's because paying by phone in the collaboratory became the reason anybody had their cell phone out, even over on the field. However, you may hand them cash, you may hand them a card, you can buy a gift card and put whatever money you want on it. You can put your card on file if you're feeling adventurous. We would love to make other ways for that to happen. And we'll be in the collaboratory after this to help you get ready for buying food in the collaboratory now that cell phones are not on the menu. So finally, how do we support you? Toddle. I'm going to move pretty quick here because these are really hard to read from this distance. You can absolutely see Toddle on your phone. You can get emails, you can find your child, you can look at the calendar, you can look at their individual classes, but that's hard to see even on a big screen. I would really encourage you, you can absolutely open up the class, you can see the learning updates, you can open those up and see what they were doing today, the resources they used. It's so much easier on a computer screen. Look at that. Oh. So if you log in, you can see their upcoming assignments and deadlines. You can pick their individual classes. You can see the learning updates for that week or that day, how to contact the teacher, etc., their office hours, and your child can too. Here's what we did in chemistry today. You can also take a look at a calendar and see all of their classes at once. So, if you need additional support, if 30 seconds of rapidly clicking through slides wasn't all it took for you, no problem. You can scan this QR code, and I'll put it back up here at the end of the session too. We also have 2 Toddle help sessions. Nope. 2 Toddle help sessions, August 20th and 27th. Those are Wednesday mornings from 8 to 9. We'll be in the collaboratory to help you learn to navigate Toddle. The app does not work well. We would so much rather them log in via the app on their, it's already on their iPads. Is that correct? I don't believe the app works very well. I think we want them logging in through the browser. And Ty is nodding her head furiously, and she is a parent here, so I really think she is the person to listen to on that one. There are, and they're fabulous. We also have a number of videos right here. So thank you so much. This is your MYP team. Some of us will be in the collaboratory to help you answer any other specific questions you have. After this is 11th and 12th grade. 11th grade is going to stay in here. 12th grade will go into the back room and hear a little bit more about colleges. And 6th through 10th grade, if you've got questions, we'd love to see you in the collaboratory. All right. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to meet you all. Oh, I love you too. Stop too much. Oh no, I forgot the last minute announcement. Thank you for pausing. If you need a car line tag, we would love to get you a car line tag in the collaboratory. If you are the adventurous sort that wants to put your credit card on file and let your children learn, we've got a form. We really want you to sign it before you leave.
I guess, are we ready to go? Just get going? Great. Well, hello. I know some of you and a few are new faces. My name is Mr. Bolin, and I am the Diploma Program Coordinator. So I wanted to start off, though, by sharing just our senior class from last year. So last year's class of 2025 was our very first diploma program class. So they were the very first class to start the DP program here at the Rock School, and man, they had no idea what they were in for, and it was quite a ride helping get them through it. But we made it. We got through their junior year, we got to their senior year, and the amount of times they said, "Mr. Bolin, we got this," and I just was like, "I sure hope so." But they did, and this picture right here was them at graduation. If you haven't watched our graduation from last year, I recommend watching the snippet from here. It's about halfway through, maybe a little more than halfway through. But they just had this wonderful presentation. All 20 of them got together. Our theater teacher worked with them, and they just had this beautiful moment of culminating their their whole time at the Rock School, but definitely what they went through in the DP program as a group. They have wonderful academic accolades that they've earned through this process, which I'll share a few of those snippets along the way because we're really proud of them. But they grew so much as people, as friends, as disciples in Christ, and we're really excited just to see what they end up doing at UF, at FSU, at LSU, at Duke, and beyond, and all those really cool things. So they're a special class, and I look forward to your all's special class too, because they're a great one as well. A few people to introduce to you, though. First is me in the top left. I am the Diploma Program Coordinator. Next to me there is Mr. Lundy. He's not only our Christian Studies teacher, but he is the CAST Coordinator, which I'll mention a little later. Then we have Miss Latower, our upper school principal. She was our original DP coordinator, but she passed the torch off to me. I didn't know she was doing it. It just kind of happened, but here we go. Now I'm in charge, for better or worse. At the bottom of that screen, we have Miss Moore. She's our inclusion specialist and our academic support specialist. She works with me. We getting those accommodations set for not only your SAT and ACT, but also the IB exams as well. And then all the other little things in between. And then this year we got to welcome Miss Bashford. She took over for Miss Card, and she is the academic advisor or counselor. So right now she's talking with the seniors, and you'll meet with her next year about just the ins and outs of getting ready for college and applying for things and like that. And she's wonderful, and we make a fantastic team all together, all of us. But they're not the only part of the team. We also have the nitty-gritty people, the ones who are with our students every single day. So again, there's me and Mr. Lundy at the top. We get to see your students pretty much every day, all the time. Next, we have Miss Oravet. She is the language and literature teacher, so she teaches the English class. Then we have Dr. Malden. She is the Spanish teacher. At the bottom, we have Miss Bothorn in the bottom left. She's actually the sister of Miss Iyer, who was just presenting, so they're a great duo, and we love having them here at the school. Next is Miss Blayhut. She is our DP science teacher. She teaches environmental systems and societies. Then we have Miss Brown, who is the longest tenure teacher here at the Rock School. So she's been here doing she's done some AP courses along the way, college courses, and now the DP courses as well. And then finally, I forgot to put Hillary on. Oh, that was sad. That was a mistake of mine. But we have Miss Lightman at the last one on the right. She teaches DP theater, and we did add a new arts course this year, DP Visual Arts, with Miss White, and she probably won't ever watch this, so she won't know. One thing I like to do, and I went over this with our students on launch day, is just to think about, well, why do we do the IBDP program? Why do we do IB at the Rock School? So what I've got side by side up there is the IB's mission statement next to the Rock's mission statement. I don't know if you can read through the graininess, but the International Baccalaureate aims to develop inquiring, knowledgeable, and caring young people who help to create a better and more peaceful world through intercultural understanding and respect. Along with it is the learner profile. There's those things that maybe one of your students have taken a coin home or a shirt the last couple years. But I want to just think about that next to our Rock School vision statement, which says that at the Rock School, our vision is to make disciples of Jesus who possess the knowledge, the skills, and the attitudes to courageously cooperate with God in the work of redeeming the world. And when I see those side by side, they really are very similar. Now, the IB program is not religious, it's not Christian in any way, but when I see those parts of like seeking to make a better, more peaceful world, to me, that's bringing the kingdom of God to the world around us. And I know some people have worried or wondered, isn't IB just a liberal or left leaning or like hippie thing? It's not necessarily. Some people might take it that way, depending on their context, but it really is a framework for approaching education. And we find that it really does work well with our desire to raise young people who have the knowledge, the skills, and the attitude to make the world a better place, specifically with the kingdom of God. So I like to start with that and giving some of that vision. Now, what I'm going to go into is a lot more nitty gritty stuff. Every time I talk to parents the last couple of years, they're just like, what does it all mean? Like, what do we get in the end? How do we get there? So I'm going to go less philosophical going forward and a little more like practical, like the ins and outs of every day, which hopefully make everything make a little bit more sense. Now, here at the Rock School, we are an IB for all school, so regardless of what classes your students take or what pathway they might be in, which I think everyone here is in the full diploma pathway, they are an IB student. They're taking IB classes, they're preparing for some end of course exams to maybe get some credit out of it. But there are two basic pathways that we do have that our students can take. On the left, we've got the full diploma program or pathway. For these students, they're taking a full IB course load. All 6 of their core classes are IB classes, and they take their theory of knowledge class with me. It is a very holistic program. It is designed to get them thinking not just in the actual course they're taking, but how it bleeds into their other courses in discipline areas. And it culminates in an IB diploma, which I'll explain a little later. Even though not all of our students have chosen to take that pathway, some of them are in our course candidate pathway, but they are IB students too. For them though, whether it's because of sports or work or whatever their desires in their life are, if they just don't want the full course load, they're taking 3 IB courses, and with that, they can still earn some of that college credit, which so many people are working for. The point being, though, here at The Rock, all students, all juniors, all seniors fit in the diploma program, and they're all IB students. So what does this look like practically, though? Normally, when I go through a presentation like this, I start with this program model, and I start in the middle, and I go outward. It gives a really like philosophical sense of like why we do what we do. But you as parents probably just want to know, well, what are we doing, and how does it end? So I'm going to go from the outside in with this. So the outside highlights how there's 6 different course areas that our students learn through. Group 1 is called Language A, so that's studies in language and literature. Here at The Rock, we have a class called English, Language, and Literature. So this is where they're reading novels, and it's more than just novels. They're also watching documentaries and looking at comics and looking at all the different ways that we use language and words to impact the people around us. Group 2 is called Language B, and this is their language acquisition class. So for your students, they're either in language ab initio, and ab initio means from the beginning. So it is for those who have a little less background knowledge in the language or the culture. And some are taking Spanish B, and that is for students who have shown a little more aptitude in their language acquisition or maybe had a few more years of practice in that. The next group is called our individuals and societies, and that class is called business management. And so they're learning all the ins and outs of how businesses market their products and how they use advertising and marketing to try to get different people to buy what they want them to buy. And so they dig into that kind of individuals and societies type of stuff. The next group is the experimental sciences, and we offer a course called Environmental Systems and Societies. It's an interdisciplinary science, so they do a little bit of biology, a little bit of chemistry, and then seeing how humans make decisions based off of all of that. Then we've got our mathematics group, and this course is called Mathematics Applications and Interpretations. It is an integrated course, so it's not just regular trigonometry or regular calculus. It's got little bits of all of that. Some statistics are involved, and it's got a little bit of everything. And then finally, we have the arts category, and this involves either the theater course or some of our students have visual arts. Again, we're an IB for all school. So these are IB courses, and all of our students take at least some of these. Just to point it out, if you weren't sure which was which, I tried to color code a little bit. The green notes IB for all, so whether they're a course candidate or full diploma student, they're all mixed in together. They're not like just in different classes. They're together in their language and literature course, their business management course, and their environmental systems and societies. For those who are taking the full diploma, they've got those other courses as well, their arts, their mathematics, and their language acquisition. Any quick questions? All right, am I going too fast or are we feeling good? All right. Now, there's a few other details as far as how these courses work that I think are important to note. IB courses are listed as either HL or SL. SL stands for standard level, and HL stands for higher level. It doesn't mean one is like cognitively more complex or difficult. It really has more to do with the amount of teaching hours required and the amount of content you cover. So it's not that like higher level is for smarter kids or anything like that. It's really just the breadth and the amount of work you get into. So the SL courses are 150 hours of teaching time required. That means in those classes, there's a little more wiggle room to slow down, maybe re-go over content and do things again. And then the HL courses require 240 hours of teaching time. So those are the ones that go a little faster paced, probably have a little more homework, and there's a little less time to just stop and sit and through things. The HL courses for our students are their language and literature, their environmental systems and societies, and their art, whether they're doing theater or visual arts. So those are the ones that if they're looking at their schedules or in total, it will tell you, it'll say HL or SL. That's just a good thing to note, like, oh wow, they've had a lot of homework in their science class. Well, part of that's because that is their HL course, and there is literally just more content that has to be covered. So that's good to keep in mind if you notice like some courses tend to have more homework or more work to do. Part of the DP program for our full diploma students, they are required to take 3 courses. So that's why we have those 3 HL courses. Sorry, 3 HL courses. They have to take all 6 though. And then each course involves IB assessments in addition to their daily work in school. Each course has both what we call internal assessments. So if you hear the term IA, that's an internal assessment. And they all have external assessments. Those are the ones that happen in May of their senior year, where they sit down, kind of like if you've ever taken an AP course, at the end you sit down and take an end of course exam. That's what the external assessments are. And then once all of those IB assessments are put together and their points are added, they get a final score of a 1 through 7, and that's how we figure out if they what they get. Just to visualize that, in each of their courses, all of their IB courses, again, has their high school coursework. This is the day-to-day stuff. It's the notes they take, it's their homework, it's quizzes, it's formative assessments, it's their summative assessments, it's the things that go into total. All of that is their high school coursework. That's what gets put together to give a high school grade at the end of each semester. That's what will go on their transcript, and that's what will determine GPAs as we start looking forward into applying for colleges. But then each of them, again, involves a little bit of their IB coursework. There's less of these because these are the big things. They're the official assessments that will literally be sent away from our school and sent off to IB land. somewhere where there's other IB teachers who will grade them and will get those official scores, which is kind of neat. That who knows, someone in Switzerland could be grading your child's work, or Africa, or some whatever English-speaking country they might go to. And so then again, for the IB coursework, whether they're internal assessment, external assessments, they get put together, and then they get that final score. Um, did you all get pretty familiar with the MYP grading? You got those 1 through 8s on Criterion. Things change a little bit, which we'll learn and we'll get comfortable with it. When you look in Toddle, if you're trying to check on your students' grades, what you'll end up seeing is a final 1 through 7 grade, and those are descriptors of what levels they're at. It's unfortunate. If you want to read this a little more, it's in the assessment policy if you want to dig a little deeper into it. But these final grades on any assignment, whether it's a formative that they're working on or a summative assessment as we're looking at Toddle to see the progress of our student, they get an overall 1 through 7. I do want to point out that it translates to a letter grade at the end of the semester. So note a 4. This is a number that I want to focus on. A 4 is kind of like the baseline of where we want to be. If we're thinking of progress, is my child like in a good spot? If they're at a 4, that's a good place. I do want to note though, this first column here with the A, B, C, this is what the number grade will translate on their transcripts as far as their semester grades go and what goes towards calculating GPAs. Notice that in their junior year, a 4 will convert to a B. This is great, this is good, but their senior year, a 4 will translate to a C. Now just a little ideas for why we do that. The IB-DP program is a 2-year program. So what they start in their junior year, they continue working through in their senior year. So that's why we do the sliding scale. We don't expect your students to like master everything quickly, because we're working on rubrics and assessments that they will be working towards getting better at for 2 whole years. So we do the sliding scale where, again, junior year, 4s are great. That really is we want to be there or higher. That will turn into Bs. But just keeping in mind, we expect improvement going to senior year. We expect to be better with the command terms and the assessment types and what we're asking them to do, that we do want to see those going up in senior year. Now, I want to transition our brains a little bit. That was a little bit of the high school grades. I want to think a little bit about their IB grades. Remember, those are 2 different things. The IB grade, this is the final thing at the end of it all. They've got to the end of their senior year. Again, each course is a little bit different in exactly what these look like, but they take their IA, which is the internal assessment. They'll sit down for a paper 1 exam, a paper 2 exam, and those grades will all work together to get an overall course score. And I want to zoom in here at that final grade part, because I think we might get a little worried, like, wow, my final grade is going to come down to just a couple assessments. I do want to point out again that magic number 4, this is really that we want that to be our bar or higher. Notice it's 40 points out of 100. We're not expecting like the most impressive students out there. Getting these 4s is really attainable once we get down to the nitty-gritty the end. Now, why is the number 4 important? Well, this is where most of us are looking to save some money going forward, and it can translate to some really practical things. So notice here, I took UF for an example, mostly because I went there, but it is kind of a representative of the state of Florida at least. So as we're thinking of each course, if we get a 4, a 4 will translate to 3 credits per exam. For instance, we've got this language and literature course. If your student can end up with a 4, they'll get a credit for ENC 1101, which is great. If they can get, so that's why that's my baseline. We want 4s or higher. If we can get to a 5 or better, now we're looking at 6 credits. We're getting ENC 1101 and 1102. And what's even better, this 2 lets us know that we're getting some writing requirements done for that Gordon rule. So this is great. We love that. This goes for Spanish B. This is Spanish B, not Spanish ab initio though. So if your student's in Spanish B, hey, they're looking at an opportunity to also knock out some college Spanish classes. As we go forward, we've got their business management. Again, a 4, this is great. 5, even better. We're earning a few more credits with this. Environmental systems and societies. We're looking at one, potentially two courses. And then we got math applications. Same thing. We got some options, some things that we can earn. And finally, even theater. And I forgot to bring the visual arts one up there. So what's that? What is 6 times 6? 36. We're looking at the potential of 36 credits going into your freshman year of college, which is just fantastic. And I said I would share some of the great news from our seniors. When we look back at what they did this past year, our very first class, they're like, for us as teachers, our first time preparing them as well. They took a total of 100 different IB courses among all of them. 86 of those were a 4 or higher. That turned into 72 eligible hours out of just the ones who got a 4 on an exam, and 312 total credit hours between all the 5s, 6s, and 7s that were earned. So our students earned a total of 384 credit hours. That's just fantastic. And I forgot to crunch the numbers. That's like, you got to multiply that by like 200, 220 to get like a dollar amount. It's like 80,000 or something crazy like that. Even more impressive, which I found this really exciting, even among our inclusion students who have accommodations for whatever learning disability or need that they have, 100% of them passed that Lang and Lit course. So every single student who even just had some accommodations, which might have meant just a little bit of extra time on their test or some small group testing, they all passed their Lang and Lit. And out of all of the courses, beyond even just language and literature, only three of them didn't get that 4. I mean, we had some 3s that were close. This was just really inspiring to see that even our students who struggle with maybe not time management, but using their time and processing, they can do really well and be really successful. There is another component to this whole big program, so I just went through the daily classes. There's another component called the IB Core. This involves more acronyms, because we have tons of those in education. The TOK is Theory of Knowledge. This is a part that I get to work with the students. It is a class. I work with Mr. Lundy. We share a period, and we work with all the students together, and we share a room and go back and forth. But with this is an actual class that I go through with them, all about challenging them to think about thinking and how we know what we know. It does involve some internal and external assessments, but it doesn't get like that 1 through 7, so it is a little bit different. There's also the extended essay. This is important to keep in mind. It really is an independent student research, but it is on a subject and topic of the student's choice. So it's their job to, Mr. Lundy and I work with them to think through what is something I want to dig deeper in, practice some research skills, and do their first research paper in their life. It is a 4,000 word requirement, but that is a maximum. So once they hit 4,000, we're done. It can be a little bit less, but it's one of those things we want to get as close as possible to provide as much information and as much of what they can do. For any of our course candidates, though, we know that they chose to not go into this full thing. So if we have any course candidates, they do have a lesser requirement because of the path that they chose. And then finally, this is an externally assessed component. That means all of the extended essays get sent off to IB land, wherever that might be, and it gets graded outside of here. And then finally, we have the CAS, which is Creativity, Activity, and Service. All of these things are on the inner part of this diagram or this model up here, because they're part of what sets IB apart from just a traditional AP coursework where you're just kind of picking a couple college courses. And this is part of what we at The Rock think is great about the IB program, is that this is the part that challenges students to be reflective, to think more deeply, to think about who they are, not only as people who maybe want to go off into a career or college, but how they can be a part of the community around them and the world around them. This involves just having meaningful engagement, honestly, in the things that they're already doing, in the sports that they're doing, in the youth groups that they're involved in. But it does ask them to have some meaningful reflections and documenting some of it along the way, and then engaging in a lot of experiences, but one project. Mr. Lundy and I are going through a lot of work. Ethan, do you feel like you've kind of got a grasp of CAS? We've gone over it well? Does it seem like it'll be too much? Or all your piloting stuff's going to be nice to add to that, right? It'll be easy. Does it feel like, hey, I can do the stuff that I'm doing already and just take a little time? Good. Not overwhelming? Perfect. I do want to point out, though, that not only is this required to get the IB diploma, but it is also just a Rock School high school diploma requirement. So all students are required to complete this, not necessarily get A's and hundreds on it, but to complete it and show some worthwhile effort. So, how do I earn this IB diploma? Well, here are the requirements, and it's worth just knowing these, and I'll read through each of them. First is that the CAS requirements are met, that the candidate has achieved at least 24 total points, that a grade has been awarded in all of their subjects. That means they can't skip something or just not turn in their extended essay. They must do all of the parts of the IB program. That they have a grade of at least a 2. That means they can't get a 1 in anything because that would be a failing grade. That they have no more than 2 grade 2s awarded in SL or HL, that they have no more than 3 grade 3s or below awarded in SL or HL, and that the candidate has at least 12 points on HL subjects, and for candidates who register in 4, we don't have any of those. And then candidates have at least 9. So the most important ones that I want to point out, CAS requirements need to be met, and most of that's just documenting, making sure our students document what they've done, that they have 24 points, that all subjects have a grade, and that they don't get more than 2 2s. So what does this look like? Well, I'll go through this part quickly. Each of their courses work together. If you remember, you get a grade of 1 through 7. All of those get pieced together, and then you add up what you get, and there's a total of 45. All you need is 24. That's a little bit, just over half. And I can tell you this is attainable. It's not too hard to get. And I can prove it to you because this is my IB diploma. I love when I get a chance to show it. I earned 29 points, which was plenty enough to get there. A lot of our students, in fact, got it. And just to prove it to you, I wanted to point out some worldwide statistics here. So IB just sent these out a couple weeks ago. Worldwide, the pass rate of getting the IB diploma, making all those requirements, getting the 24 points, 81.3% of students in all English-speaking schools across the world earned their IB diploma. And you guess what percent we had? It was better than that. 92% of our students who were in the full IB diploma program earned their IB diploma. And why is that part a big deal? We already talked about college credit. They can earn college credit without earning the diploma, which is a great thing. They can get those 36 credits if they get 5s and better on everything. But here's what's even more exciting, is that when we think of Bright Futures, notice that Bright Futures requirements here, are there any numbers under the college entrance exams? No. If a student earns the IB diploma, as far as Bright Futures go and getting the full amount of Bright Futures, that part is waived. And in our school, we ended up having 8 students who did not already qualify for Fulbright Futures obtain Fulbright Futures because they got their IB diploma, which was pretty exciting. And then 2 of them who are going to FSU are getting, between the 2 of them, earning 16,000 free scholarship dollars. They don't even have to apply for it. The fact that their IB diploma was being sent to FSU and they got it, they automatically qualified this. So I think free money is definitely like exciting for people and things that like make them a little bit motivated, or at least maybe motivate you to motivate your kids. I do want to point out, and this is really important too, while the requirement for SAT and ACT are waived as far as Bright Futures go, as you're starting to think of like what colleges your student wants to go, they do need to take the SAT and ACT. So we're not saying don't take it, but because that might impact which college they can get into. We're just talking about the free money part. Does that make sense? Any questions about that? All right, I have one just final thing to show, because I think this is important just for you as parents to have in mind. Remember, this is a 2-year program. The DP starts in junior year and goes all the way to the end of their senior year. So I came up with this wonderful calendar on Canva, because my students have been telling me I need to use it. I'll just to point a few things out. This top section here is DP1. That means it's their junior year. Then we've got summer in the middle, and then senior year. All the colored parts are their internal assessments, those things that they're working on that are IB grades. What do you guys notice about this calendar? It's very full, but when is it full? Yeah, next year. And this is just important because I know some students have this thing in mind, like senior year, let's just have a party and not do anything. That's not how this is going to work, and it's important to know that because unmet expectations result in premeditated resentments, and we don't want that. Um, just practically, just notice this very first part. This is the fall that we're in right now. There's not a lot going on because we're onboarding to the program. The classes are new. We're teaching the concepts. We're getting used to the IB program and the rubrics and the papers. Next spring, this is honestly like looking back where our most recent seniors, this is what kicked their butt, mostly because they weren't ready for it and they just didn't realize what was coming. It's really not as crazy as next fall, but this is where like the shell shock comes because this is where we start really getting into these IB assessments and these IAs and these things like that. But just to keep in mind, yeah, come senior year, we are doing a lot. There's a lot coming up. And I want to highlight May here because this is when those external exams come. Don't plan any vacations early in May because those IB exams are set in stone. IB sets them. We cannot change them. The dates I'll have posted sometime soon just in case you want to know a year and a half ahead of time, which is if you're really a planner like that, we can get them to you. But that part is important because once we get to that, we just cannot change those dates. Um, I hope that was helpful and gives you a little better picture of just like the hard work your students are going to get into these next couple of years. Are there any questions? Yes. Yes. Let's just go here. Perfect. So we're gonna utilize Toddle for that. That will be our platform where we house everything. We're not recording hours. Like we're not asking them like, did you spend an hour on this or 2 hours? So that part we're not concerned with. But we do need documentation of things they're involving themselves in. So if they're like a leader on their youth group in any capacity, that could be something that they reflect on. We're working with them now of like how to create those like folders and those experiences in Toddle. Um, it could be once a week, it could be once a month for something like that. The point is that they need to be documenting that they have continued involvement over just the 18 months. And it could be an experience, could be like a 1 week thing. Hey, I tried a new class, a jujitsu class. It wasn't for me, but I learned that I don't like martial arts. Like that would be a valid experience. It really is about encouraging students to learn more about themselves, what they're passionate about, and how they can be involved in the world around them. It is called creativity, activity, and service. So there's components where they're pushed to do creative things, whether it's paint related, music related, production related, whatever is for that student is a good thing to try. It is activity, which for most of our students is the sport that they play around here. But whatever, it could be dance, it could be hiking or things like that. And then the service part is about meeting needs in the community. But it requires some sort of documentation. Sometimes that's pictures, sometimes that's journal entries. Um, but yeah, does that help a little bit? Do you have a follow up question? So, yes, yes. Mm-hmm. Okay, so how many experiences, or we don't go by experiences. What we do practically is we check how many reflections have they made, um, and we're looking at like about once a week, one reflection per week. So by the end of the year, you've had 35 ish. We IB doesn't require a specific number, regardless. I mean, I know at some point like it's just easier to have a number. So we say about 35, so that by the end of the year, you've had like one per week. So that's an easy beginning metric, but then it is also qualitative. And so Mr. Lundy is our CAS coordinator. His job is to check along the way, and if he feels like, hey, you made a reflection this week, but you put 2 words in, like that doesn't really count. And I can walk you through a little more if you like later. Yes. They can be completely different. So the question was, can the reflections be tied just to a project or whatever? Yeah. So for the CAS program, there's what's required is that students have involvement in CAS for all 18 months of the DP program. So that's the beginning of junior year all the way to May. and that they show balance among the strands, that at times, not all at once, but at times they do creative things, they do active things, and they do service. And it could be like 1 month, another month. And that and finally, that they have some sort of CAST project, which is collaborative in nature and requires at least a month's worth of planning, initiating, implementing, getting done. For instance, for a project, we had some students begin the car wash that we've done the last couple of years. So they worked with National Honor Society. They had an idea for a fundraiser for St. Francis House, and so all the work of coming up with the idea, working together, asking for the school for what they can do, getting help with students, collecting supplies, doing the car wash, and then bringing the supplies. That was their project. So they had reflections on their project. We require them to do like an action plan. What is your plan? What are you going to do? Is this feasible? Do you need an adult supervisor? Can you do this on your own? That's part of Mr. Lundy's job to make sure like what we need to do. As far as the other experiences, it could be I've just got a running log of like youth group and I help with it. And or maybe I help with kids church and I work with the second and third graders and it's really hard and I realize I don't want to be a teacher someday or like whatever it might be. Those experiences can be anything or whatever it might be. Other questions? Yes. 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 Good question. And it's a little hard to read on this screen, but this is in the assessment policy. So again, what we put in total, the way that we document their work, they are getting an overall 1 through 7. That's their mastery level. What that will convert to, and this is the conversion chart that's hard to read, is a 7 for their junior year will be translate to an A, which in GPA wise, oh, this is actually a great question that should have put in. It's weighted too. It's weighted. So instead of just a 4.0, it'd be a 5.0. And that's also how the universities look at it too. When they see an IB course, they know it's not just an honors course or a general education course. Most universities, and they all do their own thing. They all have their own like special formulas. Most of the ones that we've talked to, the university itself gives a full point weight to an IB course versus a non-IB course. And so, if their course says IB math, IB language and lit, IB theater, there is a whole extra weighting point. Okay, that's a good question. Anybody else? That's a practical one. That's good. With that in mind, note again, it is a little bit different from junior year to senior year. So if we're getting a bunch of 4s and we're really happy with Bs that are weighted a whole extra point, that is great. That's what their junior transcript will always say. That won't ever change. But when they do get to their senior year, we do expect a little more oomph or a little more work or a little more mastery to show because the letter grade will change. The weight is still a 1 point weight. Great. Anybody else? You can email me anytime. I'm happy to answer questions. Miss Ty asks me all the time, all year long, questions. And was I ever upset or annoyed? Not at all. Not at all. Mr. Sandlin, did I ever give you a side eye if you asked me an IB question? Not once. So feel free to reach out. We can meet in person. You can email. You can come here. I'm more than happy to talk you through some more stuff. Okay? All right, well, that is it. If any of you heard at the end of the MYP, starting tomorrow, tomorrow's the last day phones can be used to pay at the collaboratory. So if your student has gotten used to that, you need to either put a card on file in the collaboratory or give them cash or tell them to use their own card. No more phones to pay at the collaboratory.